chilling here at the downtown Grand. Down here, just off Fremont Street, one street north from Fremont. One of the nicer properties here in downtown Las Vegas. Had to come by, swing by, and pick up my Life is Beautiful passes for the weekend. Looking forward to that. Mentioned that in the previous proper vlog we did. Off to Life is Beautiful this weekend. Awesome music festival happening over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You might be wondering why this video looks slightly different. That's because I forgot my memory card for my point and shoot Canon camera. So we're on the GoPro at the moment, combined with iPhone for the microphone. Gotta do what you gotta do. Hopefully this doesn't look too weird. So it's been a little while since we've played a proper poker session. Almost a week, maybe about 5 days or so. Partially because I had some other things going on. We did put out another video, which was the video of me and my buddy Benton calling you guys, taking some calls. We went over some hands together that were submitted from some of you guys, as well as some other poker scenarios and poker questions that you guys had. So that's one reason why we haven't played poker for the past, whatever it was, 5 days or so. Second reason is last session went pretty god-awful. Got absolutely crushed the last time I played poker. I didn't really vlog it. I got some footage of me driving there and then pretty much lost the motivation to continue recording. It was just pretty much another day at the Bellagio for the most part, aside from the fact that we hardly won a single hand for the entirety of whatever it was, 6 hours, 8 hours, losing hand after hand. So why don't we run through some of these extremely fun hands together right now, just to get it all on the books, make it all official, and have it on there, have it on record. All right, first fun hand, under the gun +1, makes it 40. Next to act calls, and then I'm the next person in line with pocket 10s. I make the call as well, and there's 2 other callers. So 5 ways to a flop, 9-7-3 with 2 hearts. The 2 early position players check, and I am going to put out a bet here, obviously. Overpair, want to thin the field. I make it $130. Player next to act, who I believe is on the cutoff, puts in a raise. He makes it $420 to go. This is probably one of the worst overpair holdings I could have in this exact situation. Red pocket 10s kind of narrows down his flush draws and straight draws, potentially, that he could be raising as a semi-bluff. Plus he's got a bunch of people behind him, so it'd be pretty bold of him to just put in a raise and hope it gets through. More likely that he's got a pretty strong hand. So I'm just gonna have to give it up and not get stubborn and just fold right away. Not even gonna see any more cards. Like I said, having red 10s makes it a little bit easier, I think, to get away. Looked like an ideal flop, but not an ideal situation thereafter. Next fun hand, I open up pocket kings to $30 from the cutoff. Both the blinds call. 3 ways to a flop of Queen 8-7 rainbow. Small blind checks. Big blind does not check. Big blind puts out a bet. Big blind bets $40. Could certainly make a case for raising here, but I just decided to flat call in this situation. The small blind calls as well, so still 3 ways to a turn card. Turn brings the 4 diamonds, which is a second diamond on the board. Small blind checks. This time the big blind bets again. $130 this time. Now I think it makes even more sense to just flat call. That's what I do, and this time the small blind folds. River's an offsuit jack. This time the big blind bets $350. All things considered, it's a pretty bad run out. 5-6 gets there, 9-10 gets there, Queen Jack gets there. We can beat Ace Queen and King Queen. Some sort of random hand turned into a bluff, random pair turned into a bluff. That's about it though. Maybe Queen 10, overplayed Queen 10. That seems a little bit optimistic. But having somewhat slow played and under-upped my hand, I just decided to call it off, take a look, and pocket 7s is what we end up getting shown here. No good, so I was definitely going to lose something. Case to be made for putting in a raise on the flop, but that wouldn't have worked out too well either. King's no good this time. In the next fun hand, the low jack, open limps. I look down at pocket 5s in the hijack and I make it 50 to go. The button puts in a 3-bet, makes it 160. Fairly straightforward situation with a small to medium pair. So I'm gonna make the call playing somewhere around 1,500 deep. The immediate stack sizes and immediate odds, implied odds, seems so-so, seems okay. Not super ideal, but pretty much fine, I think. So we're heads up to a flop, which comes 8-3-3 with a flush draw. I check and he puts out a bet of 170. It's one of the better flops that we could have hoped for with no high cards on the board. I expect him to put out a C-bet with a pretty wide range there. So I think folding right in this spot right away is a little bit too weak. So I'm going to continue here. I make the call. We see a turn card, which is about the least ideal turn card there is, an offsuit ace. I check and he checks it back. River comes a brick. I check it one more time, and this time he does not want to check it. Puts out a bet, some number that I don't remember at the moment, but nothing too out of the ordinary here. Can beat basically nothing at this point. He does have a few bluffs left, maybe like a queen jack or a king queen or something like that he was 3-bet bluffing with. Not a lot of combos though, and plenty of hands that we lose to. So let that one go. In the next enjoyable hand, we're playing 6-handed. The under the gun player opens for 20. Min raise coming in under the gun. There's 2 calls, and I look down at king queen offsuit. Since I know the player in the under the gun position is happy to play a fairly wide range, and his sizing is about as small as you can get, literally, and the fact that nobody else seems to show too much strength here in this situation, I decided to put in 3-bet with king queen offsuit, make it 120. It folds around to the player in the hijack. He makes the call, and he's pretty short stacked. He's only got between 250 and 300 left. Flop comes out, pretty good for us. Finally, a good flop. King, king, 3 with 2 clubs. And not only that, but the hijack player open jams his short stack, $270, I think, into the middle. Toss in the call. Long story short, we do not win this hand. We lose to ace-10 of clubs. Turns the nut flush draw. We do not improve on the river. Another hand not going our way. Next interesting hand comes when we look down at a premium hand. Pocket kings and on the button. Make it 30 to go, and both blinds call. 3 ways to a flop. The dreaded ace comes out. Ace 6-4 rainbow. They check to me, I check it back. Turns another ace, so it makes it a little bit more likely that we could potentially have the best hand. Action checks to me. Just gonna check it one more time and see what happens here on the river. River's a deuce. The small blind leads out for $40. Big blind folds. Happy to call for this amount and this run out and this action. Small blind rolls over, ace 6. Moving on to the next enjoyable hand of poker. There's an early position limp. I raise ace 10 offsuit, $40. Get 3 callers. Flop comes favorable for us. 10, 10, 6 rainbow. Flop trips, nut kicker. There's 1 check. I bet $60. The cutoff calls and the other 2 players fold. Turn is a 9 of clubs, which brings a backdoor flush draw on board. This time I bet $180, and he makes the call once again. Off to a river card. Not my favorite river card. Puts forward or straight on board. Offsuit 7. That being said, I think there's some hands that should be most likely in his range that I can potentially still get some value from. Notably King 10, Queen 10, and Jack 10. If he happens to have a full house here, I think it's okay to bet fold. We still have plenty amount of money behind in this spot to make this a fairly reasonable bet fold spot. That's what I do. I try to go for some value here. I bet $300 and get an immediate call. Show my hand, no good. 10-8 offsuit. Once again, not too much differently I could have done. You can make a case for changing some of the sizings, my bet sizings, basing this flop and number of players and protecting various parts of my range. But all that being said, we were bound to lose something in this hand, something reasonable, facing the dreaded 10-8 offsuit. Last interesting hand, my will to top off my stack has diminished at this point. Just about to call it a night at this point, and somewhere around 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, one of those situations. One of the big stack players had called it a night, and I was just waiting for the blinds to roll around before I pick up as well. So I didn't top off my stack, and it's somewhere around $700 at this point. Look down at Jack 10 offsuit in late middle position and make it 40 to go. You get 2 callers. Flop comes pretty good for us. 10-9-8, 10-9-8 rainbow, top pair plus open-ended straight draw. I bet $80 into the 2 players. The first player calls. Second player on the button raises it up to $200. I've only got about $500 left and facing a pretty good flop. A little bit sick of it at this point. Don't see myself ever getting away from this hand. And all the money is just gonna have to go in the middle. So $700 into the middle it is. First player folds, second player calls right away. Long story short, he's got queen jack. We make a jack high straight on the turn. That's not going to win this hand. Queen high straight is going to win this hand. So, just one of those nights, one of those mornings, one of those experiences in poker where absolutely nothing goes your way, nothing went my way. You never really know when exactly it's going to happen, but the rough sessions are for sure going to come from time to time. This was one of them. Rack up a loss of somewhere around minus 4.5K, which a little bit tough to swallow. Doesn't really make you super eager to get back into the mix. by any stretch, but can't wait forever. Can't stay on the sidelines forever. Time to get back to it. It's Thursday evening. Life is beautiful weekend. Can't rest on your laurels. Time to get back in a car, drive over to the Bellagio, and get back into a 5-10 no limit hold'em game. Main weapon of choice. Stopped and got the memory card, so we're back in operation here with the Canon G7X. That's not an ad, but I edited out that part where I stopped for the memory card. It's the magic of movie making right there. And now here we are, back at the Bellagio. Back here in our old office, sort of, our old hand history office, Bellagio Sportsbook. Been playing for a few hours, maybe 2.5 hours, something like that. A couple hands to go over real quick. Seems like a pretty busy night here at the Bellagio. They have 4 5-10 games and a list. So looks like it should be a pretty busy weekend here in Las Vegas, here on the Strip, and potentially in the poker rooms throughout the weekend. Good to see, always good to see lots of 5-10 tables going, especially on a Thursday night. So that's pretty cool. A couple hands to jump into. In the first one, we're looking at a 7-way limped pot, and I'm in there with 8-6 offsuit on the button. My button limping range, when it's multi-way limp to me, my limping range can be fairly wide. Happy to just jump in there on the button and with something playable, whether it's suited or connected in some fashion. Happy to see a cheap flop and have last position on all streets. So 8-6 offsuit kind of fits the bill. Flop comes 8-7-3 rainbow. Action checks all the way to me. I think I need to put in a bet here, so I make it $50. The big blind and the first limper make the call. 3 ways to a turn card, which is another 3. Action checks to me, and I think I'm going to slow down here a little bit. I think, sure, you can put in another bet there and maybe charge some draws, but I could also value cut myself a little bit versus a better 8. And there's not too many worse 8s available than the 8-6. So I'm just gonna check it back here and see what happens on the river. River comes in offsuit 5. This time the big blind leads out for $150. First limper folds, and it's back to me. There's a couple draws that have potentially missed, and we have a 6, which blocks straights in this position. You could have a 3, potentially. Don't know who this player is. I think he's a recreational player, and certainly possible to have a 3 that he called with on the flop, but also some potential missed draws. So not gonna fold top pair in this spot. Expect to lose some percentage of the time. I'm okay with that. So I make the call. He shows us 10-9 offsuit. So does happen to have one of the missed draws this time. Top pair works out for us. One more interesting hand here. There is a middle position limp from somewhat of a short stack. He's only got maybe in the neighborhood of $500. I look down at a premium hand on the button, ace king offsuit, raise it up to $50. Folds back to the limper, who sticks that somewhat short stack into the middle. Just under $500. Ace king, pretty premium hand in this spot. Not that deep, so not that much of a decision. Just gonna toss in the call, hope for the best. Board runs out, we do not improve our hand. Opponent rolls over pocket 7s. So we cannot make a pair. Pocket 7s is a pair. A pair beats no pair in No Limit Texas Hold'em. Therefore, we do not win the pot. So stuck a little bit here in the early going, just grinding. What else can you do? What else can you do? Grinding it out. Hoping to make a hand and hoping to make the best hand, hoping it holds up. Nothing more philosophical than that simplicity to offer here. Back to it, back to work. morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to all of us. Breaking news, leaving the casino at daylight. 6:45 in the morning. Don't know how long we played for. I should check this out. I should look and figure these things out before I start recording on the camera so that I can report to you. Maybe I'll just put the time, the duration of this session right here. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Only you know. You know by now whether I did or did not. All right, let's go through a couple more hands. This is a hand-heavy episode. Not too much else going on here in this episode other than poker hands. First fun one, the under the gun +1 opens for 30. I look down at 10-9 suited just next to him and I make the call. Small blind calls as well, which means we got a three-way flop. 10-8-7, 2 diamonds, 1 club. Pretty pleased with that flop. Action checks over to me. No c-bet from the initial raiser, so I'm gonna put in a bet and I make it 70. Small blind calls, initial raiser folds. Heads up to a turn card, which is the 3 of clubs, and this time the small blind leads out for 170. I don't think there's too much choice here other than just a flat call, because it would really suck to put in a raise and then face a 3-bet or a jam or something like that on this card. Don't think I can just call that off, so flat call here I think makes the most sense. We make it straight on the river, but it's the 3rd diamond, the jack of diamonds. He thinks for a bit and then he checks it over to me, and I think it's worth going for some value here. I think it has to be pretty small value because there's now 4 to a straight and 3 to a flush on board. Tough to say really what his most likely holding is in this spot, but when he's checking it over to me, I don't expect him to be super strong. So I think I should be able to get some value if I size appropriately meaning size down. So I put out a bet of $220, goes into the tank and is thinking it all over. So we definitely don't want to hear him say I raise or I'm all in or something like that. But luckily he says I call, I show, and it's good. So I think I like my sizing there. Worked out okay. Don't know if our other outs, such as our trips or 2 pair outs, would have been live or not. Seems like a decent possibility that they might not have been. But guess we got some run good come our way. Finally, straight on the river comes in. The next fun hand, there is an early position raise to $40. I look down at 9-8 of hearts in the cutoff. With this sort of hand facing some late position action, I would for sure consider a 3-bet. But I think with the early position raise, with the initial raise coming from the early position spot, I think flat call is okay here. If I was small blind versus button or button versus cutoff, something like that, would for sure consider a 3-bet. But here I just decided to flat call. The button makes the call and the small blind puts in a 3-bet. He makes it 170 to go. The initial raiser calls and it's back to us, and I think it's pretty borderline. I don't really love the situation, mainly because we're not that deep. I think we're somewhere around 15 to 2K, maybe closer to 2K effective, but prefer to be a little bit deeper. It can be a little bit tough to really realize the equity with these hands. But seeing as how I'm stuck a little bit and I've been running bad and we're definitely due for some run good. Okay, not really those reasons. Okay, maybe only slightly joking with those reasons. I just decided to make the call here and the button folds. So we do have last action going 3 ways into this flop, which comes 7-6 deuce, rainbow, 1 heart. So we flop the open ender to the nuts. Small blind puts in a c-bet, $220. Initial raiser calls, giving us a very good price to continue, so I call as well. Turn card's pretty favorable for our hand. Turn is the 5 of hearts, which gives us the nuts plus a flush redraw. Small blind slows down this time, checks it over. The early position player doesn't have too much money left relative to the pot. He's only got about $600. He sends all that in. Very good news. Ships it in there. I don't want to just snap call because I want to perhaps entice the 3-better in the small blind to come along as well. So I put in not sure I would say Hollywood, but just don't react too quickly. Eventually make the call, and the small blind folds immediately. Initial raiser asks if I want to run it twice. I don't really care. So we do run it twice, and each board runs out with an ace. I show my hand, considering the fact that I have the nuts, and he mucks his hand. So we're scooping this one. Finally, a nice sized pot comes our way, following a bunch of run bad as of late. Much needed scooped pot here. Desert mornings, they're pretty, you know. They're these Vegas desert mornings. Look at that. Look at that light. Look at that light coming off of the Bellagio like that. It's very pretty. Something about turning the nuts makes you, you know, appreciate the beauty around you a little bit. All right, last interesting hand. I look down at pocket aces in early position. I make it $40. The button calls, and the small blind puts in a 3-bet. Great news. Makes it 130 to go. Over to me, and I'm looking to make a 4-bet here. So I make it 350 to go. Player in the middle folds. Back to the small blinds. Excellent news. He jams it all in there. Snap call the $1,300 or so that's in his stack. We're off to the races. Do you say it's off to the races if it's not a coin flip? We're off to see all 5 cards. All 5 cards are presented, and my opponent rolls over pocket aces. Just when you think the run bad, run good corner is fully turned. I mean, we could have lost, considering that he had free roll on the turn there, so can't complain too much. Aces do not get cracked. Good news is we're at least getting our money back. So that really wraps up the session there. That's a lot of poker hands that were discussed in this video, and not too much else, which I'm sure some of you will be pleased about. I ended up booking a win of $517 this evening / morning, which it's always nice to book a win after a big loss. I think there's something to be said for locking up a win. That's not what I did, considering what time it is, and considering the fact that I was actually up somewhere around 1,000, a little over 1,000 at some point in this session, but went pretty card dead towards the end of the session and led a little bit back. But yeah, it's pretty nice to book a win following a big loss. It's always good to try and get your confidence back. And yeah, it'd be nice to be robotic about these things and just have no sort of emotion about heading back into the spot where you lost thousands of dollars previously. But I'm only human, and it's nice to book a win following a big loss. And heading into the weekends, as mentioned, Life is Beautiful weekend in downtown Las Vegas. So I don't know how much poker I'll be getting in this weekend, but I know there's going to be some fun stuff happening in October. That's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but there's going to be some fun things happening. All right, hope you enjoyed these hand histories, and I feel like I should mention my buddy Benton, who joined me in the last video. We have something called the Hand History Lounge. If you liked all these hand histories and you want feedback on your hands, you can join us in the Hand History Lounge. It's you can find it through Benton's site, but I will definitely be hanging out in there as well. If you need answers to your hand questions, you want some proper feedback, come check it out. Come check out the Hand History Lounge. Benton's creation, but I'll be in there too. All right, see you in the lounge or bed. I'll see you in bed. That sounds kind of creepy, but that's where I'm going to bed.